Hey, everybody, this is Micah Lieberman once again coming at you with a Voices of Scope interview with Lisa Moneymaker, best name in industry. She is the Chief Strategy Officer at Metadata, and she's also one of our key figures at Scope, has been for a long time, but this year she's one of our she's offering opening remarks at the keynote. So it's kind of setting the stage, as you will. Lisa, how are
My
you?
job to wake you all up. I'm gonna get you up in the
Yes.
morning. How about that?
Yes, it's true. It's absolutely true. They will be there. You will have a good crowd, and you've been doing this forever, Lisa. So
Yeah.
you've done Scope with me for many years. You've
Yep.
had different jobs. You've had a long journey. Not that you're old, but you've had a long journey. You have a lot of experience in clinical research. So you and I were just talking
Yeah.
a little bit about like how Scope has grown, like
Yeah.
where it came from when we were all babies and where it is now. And we cover a lot. There's big picture stuff, and then we really get into there's like 20 tracks where people are just getting really into the weeds of biospecimen management, data management, patient recruitment, outsourcing strat, everything you can imagine. We really segment.
Yeah.
However, your role, you're a chief strategy officer. You got to kind of step back
Yep.
and see where things are going. So anybody could go dig into the Scope agendas and really get into the details. But I just want to ask you a question, and it's kind of a good setup for in a few weeks is if knowing what you know is seeing what you're seeing and all of the clients you're working with, all of the work you're doing, this is a crazy question, but if you could like look 5 years into the future,
Yeah.
where are we now? 5 years into the future, it's not a jump, it's not a quantum leap, right? It's kind of a gravelly road in a wooden wagon on the Oregon Trail,
That sounds like clinical development. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so tell me a little bit about where we're going, but also kind of that bumpy road, like
Yeah.
what you envision. It's a big question.
It's a big question. I'll meander on that
Meander,
bumpy road.
please.
I think any of us thinking about clinical development and the journey would think about, those stops and starts, the innovation of the future, but then the resistance to change. We talk about it all the time. I think the focus on patient centricity that we've had, that we're going to be talking about when we kick off at Scope is phenomenal. It keeps us grounded. It keeps us where we need to be. And then, now every track is crushed by the overwhelming weight of AI, right? We can't help but talk about it. It can't help but be impacting us. And I think that a lot of those threads weave together in where we will be and where I see us going. And I think if I were to fast forward a few years, if we take the data that we have been collecting for all of this time, why can't we imagine a world where instead of, planning our studies and optimizing our studies and then hoping they go well, that we're actually really simulating them out in advance, that we're creating this world where we can say, I know how trials like this have performed. I can take simulated data based on real patients that would have progressed through this in the past, and I can see how that would operationally play out. I can see how it would play out across a budget. I can see where my choke points will be, where my enrollment's likely to fall off. But not only that, I can test out the potential impact and the burden on those patients before I ever enroll them. And so I'm not sending them down an arm that they're not going to be able to complete, things like that, so that we can really turn from, monitoring the operationalization of the study to predicting in advance and getting us to way past this point of, 90% of trials move to failure, to really where the only reason that trial isn't getting to success is because, the molecule didn't prove out the compound that we're testing was not ready for market, which is a great thing to find out whenever we find it out. But it's not happening because we couldn't get to enrollment numbers. It's not happening because it wasn't operationally efficient or it was too expensive or the things that are utterly avoidable. And I think that's going to be the conversation that we're having. And it plays down that bumpy road because what do we need to do to get there? We've got to be really focused on our data strategies now. We've got to be really focused on making sure we deeply understand that patient journey and that we're getting all the things in play to be able to take advantage of AI as we move past pilots and into actual execution, and that we're ready to be able to adopt things. And we've thought about our change management and we're not stuck in our ways, but we're ready to grasp and really jump into what new futures could look like.
I think some of this started like if I look back on some scopes where early on we're like, why are we going to the same sites over and over with
Yeah.
questionnaires? Like simple stuff that like now is like, it just seems so obvious. And some changes. And those
Yeah.
changes were more around process, right? It wasn't really data. It was like, can we stop repeating the same thing? AstraZeneca, Pfizer, BMS are asking the sites the same question. Why don't we have a shared questionnaire? And then you had the common protocol template. These are things that are more pre-competitive collaboration to
Yeah.
reduce redundant work. What you're talking about is further ahead. Now we're getting into, okay, what can you simulate using data we have to make better decisions? How far does that go? Are we dropping a protocol in and then are we quickly simulating it out and then coming back to update that protocol? Because that's happening
Yeah.
per Ken Getz way back when at one scope a million years ago when we came up with that number and everyone oohed and awed in the room, which was
Yeah.
every amendment is
That's right.
$500,000 and adjusted for inflation. What is that now?
Yeah.
Who knows? So how do you go down that bumpy road and quickly get back?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is. I think because all of this is a continuation, right? We learn from standing on the shoulders of those before us, and the work that Ken did is absolutely applicable to what we look at today. And we're still, but funnily enough, it's not funny. We're still trying to solve all the same problems.
Yep.
Everything you just rattled
Right.
off that we were talking about 10 years ago. I mean, ask how many people are still trying to solve the feasibility questionnaire and
Correct.
how many sites are still frustrated about single sign-on to things and how many
Yep.
passwords. I mean, we do need to find a world where we get out of our own echo chambers and we get more towards solving and solutions. And I
Good
think
point.
that is so critical for us because we are really, really good at admiring our problems. We're
Mhm.
really good at standing up point solutions for things that then don't have enduring value because they only solve one microcosm as opposed to really looking at the solution as a whole. I think it does. New technology gives us the way to solve these differently. And I do think it gives us this world of, plan and simulate and design in advance and then take those same strategies and reapply them. It's not playing out how I expected. Let me re-simulate with several different new,
Right.
parameters or ideas that I bring into it.
Iteration.
Yeah, the
Iteration.
iterations. But again, none of it changes unless we change. And I think that acceptance and that embracing of change management, we talk about it every time. Every time this conversation comes up and we say we can't really get on the horse, we bring up change management. And so I do hope that, as a series of companies, as a industry as a whole, that we're taking that more seriously. And I see elements of this happening now because with the expectations that some of these AI savings, et cetera, come into play, companies are forced to reconcile that idea that there are expectations that they're being held to, and so they are going to have to do something differently. And so we're kind of getting forced towards that. But we don't want it to feel like a forcing function. We want to feel like, more of an evolution that we're embracing. And so I think that we will have all of the right tools at our fingertips. And now we need to sort of get our hearts right in the space to really be able to adopt.
Yep. All right. Well said. We're going to keep talking about this at Scope.
Yeah.
And this is the purpose of Scope, this type of discussion.
Yeah.
Cool.
Amazing. I can't wait
Thanks,
to see
Lisa.
everyone. You too.
I know. See you soon. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Micah. Bye.